Good morning. Time for a morning edition of Mornings with Stanley. I'm running a little bit late today. Didn't sleep all that well last night. So anyway, got up a little later than I planned. Took the dogs for a walk. Lucy just crashes as soon as we get back. So she's out on the patio. Stanley's just been going in and out while I've been getting ready. Anyway, we'll see what today will be like. Next week I'm on vacation, so next week I will not be doing my Mornings with Stanley videos. I'll be beginning on Sunday, and then, though I might have a funeral next week, or maybe even this week, a good man in our church who is on hospice, and talked to his daughter yesterday, and he's opening his eyes, but not much else, and I don't know if he's able to communicate at all, but he's about 95 years old, I think. He's a good man. Always faithful at church, came until he fell one time at church and had to start being, I think he moved in with his daughter, and anyway, it's just been difficult for him. But a good man, good family. Anyway, so Stanley, I'm about to put you outside. I need to get to work. You don't seem to care. You just want to stay. But I did talk to, yesterday I talked to a lady who has been in the hospital, was in the hospital with COVID, and she had COVID on Saturday when they diagnosed her, and she came home day before yesterday, so Tuesday, and they put her on really strong drugs, and she's doing great. She sounded great when I talked to her, so just great to hear her voice, hear her so happy, you know. And anyway, that's what's going on. Let's get this fella out of the room. Can you leave? He looks so reluctant to go. I should bring his bed in here and just tell him to place over there, and he'd probably stay on his bed pretty well. He's pretty good at that. You know, sometimes I have to remind him to all the things that he learned in training, because I haven't been keeping up like I should. But when I do it, he seems to, it might take him a few times, but then he gets it. And he obeys pretty well. And today I just had him walking right beside me. Lucy just kind of wanders off on the other side. She's kind of dragging behind because she's slower, but Stanley was right next to me on the left like he's supposed to. It was a really good job. Anyway, this is Galatians chapter 5, verses 13 and 14. For you are called to freedom, brothers and sisters. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence, but through love, become slaves to one another. For the whole law is summed up in a single commandment. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Powerful stuff. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Something I think a lot of us need to hear right now. You know, I feel like I'm always, oh, those people over there. I know I have my own share of self-indulgence that I need to watch. But anyway, I think that's how most of us are. We're able to see the faults in other people and less willing to see the faults in ourselves. But I think that, I talked about Mass a couple of days ago. I kind of feel like that's self-indulgence, and it's asserting your freedom for self-indulgence instead of looking at the wider world. And especially with hospitals filling up, and I don't know, there's an event coming up that I am debating about whether I want to participate in. It's a large event with a lot of people gathering in a pretty big space. I'm able to social distance, I guess, to a certain extent, but I just wonder how wise it is in this time. A month ago, I wouldn't have been thinking this, but with the hospitals full, scary times. Anyway, here is our reading for this Thursday of week 31. We are not independent. The nations of the earth, for the most part, have found their independence. Some areas are the exception. Africa will be the battleground of human liberties in the next 25 years. Of course, most nations have found their independence since then. This was written in the 50s. The so-called free world has has to dissolve its imperialism and its colonialism. The communist world has yet to extend freedom to the satellite states, a bondage more secure and inexcusable than the old colonial imperialism. There was some excuse for the old imperialism. Subject people were not ready for independence, so it was said. But there is absolutely no excuse for this new, tougher kind of imperialism and communism, for the subject peoples under the communists are highly developed and are capable of their own independence. But this new imperialism, too, will fail because it is fighting the deep urges in human nature for freedom. Beneš, the great Democrat of Czechoslovakia, said that democracy will finally succeed, for it is founded on the necessities of human nature. The stars in their courses and the urges within human nature are both fighting for human freedom. It is only a question of time when all people everywhere will be free to determine the course of their own national life. And I want everyone everywhere to be free, since I am free only in the freedoms of all people. I am bound in the bondages of all. But suppose all nations get their freedom, will that be the end? No, for that would bring us only to the second stage of human development, the stage of independence. The stage of interdependence is the stage of maturity for nations as well as individuals. Independence among nations, it is soon seen, is not what it is thought to be. In a world of this kind, there is no such thing as independence. We are all bound up in a bundle of life, and what affects anyone anywhere affects everybody everywhere. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we are interdependent, vitally, inexorably, inescapably so. Oh, this is very timely, isn't it? I mean, I worry about our nation right now. I mean, I'm calling the election a fraud based on nothing except one man's desire to remain president. I mean, there's no factual evidence of it. I mean, they keep going to the courts and being shot down. What's going to happen? And this America First thing, that's independence. That's not interdependence. The ruining of our alliances with Europe, or the damaging of it, not ruining, but damaging of it. I mean, that's scary stuff going on. I feel like we're becoming more immature. I don't like to get political too much, but I really feel like our president is very immature. All the name calling and the refusal to abide by norms and even the law sometimes. I worry about our country. I pray for our country. And I know a lot of people are okay with everything that's going on, and maybe there's reason to be okay. I mean, I understand why people would support certain parts about what he does, but the thing that scares me, I don't know, is what comes if he wins all this? If he remains in power and the election is no longer valid or whatever, or it goes to Congress and they vote and he stays in power because there are more Republican-led states than Democratic-led states, what does that mean for, what's the future of this country? What happens next? Because if this election is thrown out, if these votes are thrown out, then without any evidence of fraud. Now, if there's evidence of fraud, yeah, I'd understand, but there's not, except his opinion. But if there is evidence of fraud, I mean, if there is, what happens to the next election if that happens? Our elections are meaningless from now on. What kind of nation is this? It's not what we've grew up in. This is frightening times, I think. I've always thought that all these predictions about what the president would do were just fanciful, but he's doing them. I'm scared for our country. Anyway, here is our reading for today. Father, you have tied us up together in a bundle of life. No man and no nation lives or dies to himself or to itself. You are pressing us by the very necessities to human brotherhood. Help us to respond with all we have. Amen. And our affirmation for the day: to recognize our interdependence is a budding sign of maturity.
Jesus is Lord.